Guys, welcome back. It's CSB. So we're going to go over routing today. It is my favorite part of this game. I've been routing for 5 years. I've hit rank 1, pretty much doing only my own routes. I will be going over the very basics, the links, what you need, the add-on for MDT, the website for MDT, how to use it, and some of the resources that I use, such as players, mainly players of who I find different routes, ideas for. I'll list some of those names right here that are excellent at routing, and mainly, like, I'll do a shout out to Dratnos. Excellent router, but hasn't uploaded one of those route videos in quite a while. He's kind of moved up in the ladder, so shout out to you. You were the one that inspired me to do route videos to begin with. So we can go for some other type of tanks, actually. It's mainly tanks that like to make these types of videos, but I'm a DPS player because I like to set up my cooldowns and I like to know if something changes, something body pulls, what we can change later in the key. So for the very first thing that we need to do, you need to have a kind of a repertoire of people that you're going to pull from. So I would recommend Tactycks, KiratankTV. Both of those people right now are setting up good routes on their channels. They feature full-length videos. Tactycks, I think, specifically goes into some very good beginner ones as well. So those two people are who I generally will go to right away to check out some stuff. I probably have Tactycks things downloaded in here. So very first, we're going to go to the one in game. You're going to download the add-on through the CurseForge. You're going to get MDT, Mythic Dungeon Tools. The moniker for it would be you type /MDT in your chat bar in WoW, and you will get it to pop up. So one of the main reasons I think people fail when looking at a new route, especially an MDT, is it might be empty. So let's look at the empty route right here. This seems pretty easy to follow. Over here you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see exactly how many pulls are in the dungeon. We have a couple spaces in here, so probably around 20 pulls of this dungeon. But what happens if this isn't filled in at all? So let's do new. We'll go route 4 CSB test, and we'll hit create. So this is very hard to understand what you're supposed to be doing at the beginning. And that is where my first part is. You need to watch people to understand what is going on and get a good baseline route for yourself. Because just if you looked at this and you haven't run a dungeon, this isn't going to mean anything to you. You do not understand what can kill you, what you can actually pull, how far away these are. Like for this first pack here, this pack literally goes up and down this entire corridor. If someone was just trying to route this, maybe they would have routed it right here, but maybe this pat's all the way down here and you would have had to double pull it. So these types of things are, when I route, I understand all these little tiny things. So our very first thing, if we're going to look at a empty route and you want to start from scratch, let's go to a key that you might know a bit better than Grim Batol. So let's go with a very old dungeon here. I think Necrotic Wake is probably a pretty good one. It's fairly linear, but if you don't want it to be linear, it can have some very cool options. So let's talk about that and how I would begin a route for a Necrotic Wake. Let's say from completely scratch and I didn't know anything. So our first check, take a look at this. Yeah, Tactycks S1 Pug Friendly. So I take inspiration from Tactycks all the time. I would use him. He's one of my favorite ones to go to. They're never really wrong. I think he's been doing it for multi-seasons. Like his stuff, I'll link it below as well. So let's do a new route so you can see what would happen. And this is his route. I fully imported nothing. I did nothing for this route, and so that's why it's very nice to have the access to these other types of routes, and then you can adjust from there. We're going to hit new. Let's just go CSB test route, hit create, and we want it to be empty. So let's say we need to build out this route. We're going to do a 10 key, and you want to build this route out for someone else, for your team, anything like that. What we can do is I'd recommend going to YouTube. We'll check out pretty much anything here. We'll go into, let's see, KiratankTV. He used to put his stuff up like the full route at the beginning, but this is one of the best tanks in the game ever. So we definitely want to take inspiration from this guy. Let's find our key. Like, he literally just lists them all right here. Plus 13 Stone Vault, 14 Miss, 13 City, Necrotic Wake. Necrotic Wake, done. Let's click it. So, of course, we got an ad. That's great. I don't even know what just happened. Deleted itself really quick. So, this is the hard way of doing it. Right here, I just watched him pull all of this at the beginning. So I'm going to go back into the game. I will click boom, 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 boom. And he's probably going to be taking all of these. And so I'll just go back to it really quick. And it is right here. So he just pulled pretty much every single mob in the dungeon for his first pull. Cool. Marked it down. They're kiting a little bit longer. We go into our second pull here. They pulled straight through, shrouded into what looks like the backpack. And I'm guessing they're going to pull the boss onto the backpack of mobs here. And so far they're not doing that just yet. And we'll take a look, maybe. All right, cool. So that's their next pull. And you don't have to... Generally, it's not going to be exactly like this, but I want to show you how to build a route. Like, I want you to understand when you're done with this video that you know how to build this. And this is how I do it. I don't do it like this anymore. I know what pulls I want to do. I know what pulls my team can do, etc. But, so, we just saw their next pull. Let's add it. Right here, they took some of these little extra mobs in here. And one of these pats here was kind of dragged in. For any of these pats here, they don't really matter. You'll find out when you're routing that all of these guys just kind of literally sprint around the room. So, boom, that's our pull 2. Pull 3 is Blightbone. So, let's keep going. We see Blightbone. Let's skip forward a little bit more. They pulled trash onto it. Let's see our next pull. And we pretty much only nuke the Necromancer here up top. So we add another pull. Boom. I guess I'm going to go back and see if they did pull G13. So if I go back slightly, it looks like they pulled it back to G13 here. So I will also add G13. So that's their pull 4. Pull 5 Marauder. Probably a couple of these little guys, or they pulled it into here. This is pretty interchangeable. I wouldn't worry too much about these. Your tank can pull these whenever. Keep going. And I won't do the actual full route here, but I hope that this gives a very good idea. If you see a route of someone that you want to mimic, this is what you should do. This is what I do for very high level keys. I pull them up like this. And look at that. This is the Marauder into the exact same pack here. Let me update that. So they pulled the Bone Mender. So we'll take these 5 out, put these in here. And it does look like he pulled Bone Mender, the Marauder, into Narzuda. So this is exactly how I used to build routes. This is exactly how you should be building routes if you're trying to get into building routes. It's a lot of fun to understand the changes of the dungeons and what you have to do. So once you have a full route set up, let's go back to this over here. So let's say this is your route. There's always going to be a different route. There's easier routes. There's harder routes. If you want to go with Kira's routes, they're probably going to be absolutely correct because they're trying to do world first keys, their MDI team. So you want to always watch those types of people, get inspiration, maybe copy their route, and then look at it and understand what you could do, what you couldn't do, or what you could optimize later. So one of our main reasons why this is so effective for people in general is you get to understand where your cooldowns are going to be. Let's say we have this pack coming up, the Necromancer pack, but we know the pack after it is a Marauder into Narzud, which is not in the pug-friendly route, because that's a crazy pull, and it is in our Kira route. So there's different routes for different level of play, different level of keys, and you need to understand why people are doing it in each level of key. That's where routing comes in. That's why it's fun. That's why I like it. That's why I'm trying to make this video to help you understand. So this is a very basic pug-friendly route. If this was my pull 7 was pulling directly into Narzood with this pull, I probably would only use Touch of the Magi on this mob, because this mob will only require one Frostbolt kick, a stun on the sorcerer if it wants to cast. It's really not a dangerous pull. But over here, we have 4 casters, 5 casters, plus a frontal shield AoE fear kick, plus an AoE on the ground. So these are very, very, very hard to pull together, but you can do it. And that is why they're a world first team. And some people are just doing 7s and stuff like that. There's different routes for different levels, different execution. So that is how we build a route and look at it. Some of the other more advanced things, I'd say. This will be the advanced section, what we need to be looking at, how to read it, count all of it. So when we're looking at our MDT, our goal is to get to 100%. We don't really want... The goal is to be 100.00. We want to kill exactly enough mobs for exactly enough percent, so we have the most time at the end of the dungeon because it's timed. We want, right here, 101.81%. That is pretty close to 100, but it's not exactly 100. Let's take a look at this and see what we could change and maybe make this exactly 100. Maybe these two, in my head, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm looking at this route. I look at what we could take out at the very beginning. I think we could take these two out. And look at that. Now we're at 99.40. So we would not have enough percent. So we need to put that back in. So that's why it's in there. And that's where routing gets tricky. We're trying to figure out the actual most efficient trash for the pulls that we can do in an order that's efficient without running or backtracking if we don't have to. And that's where you can just get so many different routes going on, and that's why I enjoy it. Let's quickly go to a City of Threads so I could talk about the beginning of this. I think City of Threads is a great reason, a great showing of how many different routes are actually possible in this key. So this is a engineering route that I was cooking up watching KiratankTV. And I noticed them they don't pull anything at the beginning. They take their buff, they run underneath the banner, go straight into Swarm Guard, go up the path, grab the other Swarm Guard, pull the Herald of Queen Ansarak, and while they're grouping up, they grab the next buff that's right here where my mouse is. They grab this buff, and then they just nuke this whole pack with double buff and lust. It's fantastic, and you pretty much take out so 11%, 11.86% of trash in one lust pull. That's very, very strong. Or you could, at the very beginning of this key, let's go with a new route. We want a nice, simple pug route. People don't know what's going on. We don't have an engineer in our group or priest or rogue to hit these buffs. So now we have to make a new route. Let's take a look at that. So our first 4 pulls here, I would say pull 1. We want to go boom, boom into our Swarm Guard. I think this is a pretty standard first pull for most players. If you really are worried about it, you might not even pull this. This is a fine first pull. I don't know if I'd really want to lust it or not. If you can, I would probably try to pull all of them. You could definitely exclude the 2 at the beginning if you do not have a DK. So that's another option when looking at routing. Do you have DKs? Can you grip these mobs in? If you can grip these mobs in, they're irrelevant. You just grip them in and kill them. But if you don't have a DK, then these things are going to sit out here. They have different schools of magic. They hard cast things. They're just going to stand there and cast at your group. No one's going to do any damage because they're not next to anything. So those are things you have to think about when routing. Can you group it? Is the mob stunnable? Like, can you grip it? Can you do anything? Those are things you have to figure out with routing. And back here, let's say that we'll skip to the end of the dungeon. We're on pull 7. We want to do this Marauder pack into this Pursuer into this pack right here. This is a pretty crazy pull. But if you have all of your cooldowns resetting, because you probably blew your cooldowns at the end of this fight, there's RP. You have to run up this path, and then you have to group over here on the corner. You have a lot of time to get your CDs back. So right here is a great triple pull. Great triple pull. If you do not want a triple pull for your group, you're just with some of your friends, you take this out, and then maybe you just do a double pull. You take this out, maybe you just do a single pull. But you're in charge of the route, and that is why it's fun. You get to actually know what you're pulling, and you get to pre-use your defensives, your everything. You get to pre-do everything because you're aware of the actual situation at hand. So, one of the other amazing resources that we have for MDT and such like that, we would go to 3chess.io. And I don't remember who made 3chess.io, but it was, I want to say Equinox Monk. So this will be a link down below. This is what you can use if you are not on your computer, if you're not in game and you do not have this application where you would just type /MDT. And here's the in-game one, and here's what the browser one looks like. So it's excellent. You're able to import MDTs if you so choose. Here is your export. If you exported this route, it's copied to your clipboard, and then I would go into Necrotic Wake and let's import that route. Boom. And now I've imported that new route, and if we look at it, pull 18 is down here now. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, and it's way easier now that we actually have this in the browser. So all of this stuff will be linked down below. I do hope that this gives a little bit of an insight into how I route, and why I like to route. If this helps, subscribe, like. I want to make more direct route videos of extreme scenarios and try to help you guys push and maybe just do some weekly keys. So hope it helps. Thanks, guys.